If you catch it early, it's not a problem at all. It can be fixed very easily. But if you don't catch it in time, it can be deadly. Same thing with skin cancer, same exact thing with the situation with the so-called with prostate, breast cancer, as well as colon cancer. Those are actually very easily treatable if you catch them early. Now, unfortunately, things like pancreatic cancer or lung cancer, they're a little difficult. And the reason why they're difficult is that there is very little symptoms, and you can't see it. It's just inside of the body. And by the time the symptom manifests itself, it's a lot more difficult to treat it. But I want to just now end with a few new, I would say, either advancement or new treatments. So we talked about the surgery, we talked about chemotherapy and radiation and other potential treatment, but one of the best treatments that are now available, and I'm sure you've seen a lot of commercials about, on the TV even, that there is something called targeted therapy. If you recall, 10 to 15 years ago, you go to a physician and they will just give you some form of chemotherapy. I can give you all names, but it's meaningless. 5-fluorouracil or doxorubicin, and they will say, well, you know what, take this, and then we'll let you know whether the cancer is really responding or not. But now, we can actually take the tumor out. We can take the tumor out, and we can look inside of the tumor to find out what kind of genetics, what kind of mistakes are being made in that tumor that cause that tumor to become a tumor. And then based on that, we treat that patient with a specific changes of the DNA that is caused, what's called mutation. One of the best examples is something called a Herceptin. Herceptin is the name of a drug for breast cancer patient that has a tumor that has a mutation or a change in the mistake in the DNA called EGFR. Again, the names are not important, but the fact is that prior to this treatment, people who had this HER2, the HER2 so-called mutation, breast cancer, their survival rate was 5 years. 5 years was the top because it's a very aggressive kind of cancer. But today, with the Herceptin, their survival rate has increased to 20 years, which is amazing. I mean, it used to be like a death sentence. If you go to the doctor and if you actually see the patient with a, HER2 positive or ERB2 positive breast cancer, it was deadly. But now there are treatments. And again, the treatments are mostly focused on each individual. Each individual are different, and each individual should be treated differently. And one thing that I want you to take from this lecture, from this presentation, or from this talk is that, number one, you have to always be conscious of your health. Do your physical checkups and make sure early detection is the key. Early detection can save life. Again, colonoscopy, PSA test, go to your dermatologist, do your simple blood test. Those are the kind of things that can help. Number two, most importantly, find a doctor that knows your cancer type. Because if you go to a community hospital, they will just go back to the 30, 40 years ago type of treatment, and you will do a disservice for yourself. It's not very. And then also, don't be afraid. Don't ever be afraid to take somebody with you when you go to the doctor, and somebody who's brave enough to ask questions. I know that there's a sort of a stigma against, when doctors are like so important where I can't. No. Just like you human beings, make him suffer. I mean, seriously. You know what? Seriously. Ask him questions. Don't be afraid. Because if you don't ask questions, then they're not going to answer, because they're always in a hurry. Doctors are always in a hurry. But you have to stop and say, hey, doc, I know you're in a hurry, but here's what I don't understand. You're giving me this treatment. Is it going to help me? And let me make that clear to you, that if that guy doesn't give you some real solid evidence, you don't want to put your body through a lot of, and I can tell you, I'll come to your promise, okay? I can tell you that I have a patient, stage 4 lung cancer, and when he was treated in Winchester, Virginia, He was given all sorts of chemotherapy, and the poor guy, 48 years old, he was suffering. He couldn't even get up from his bed to do his routine daily stuff, to shave his beard. That's how bad. He came to us at NCI, and I told him, I said, look, unfortunately, there's very little that anyone can do for you, because this is stage 4. We can put you on this clinical trial, but knowing that this clinical trial may help you, but it may not help you. But what you've been getting for the past 5 months is absolutely garbage. It doesn't do anything to your tumor. So cut that off, because for what it's worth, it's not really giving you any benefit, but also in the process, it is causing you a lot of agony, a lot of pain, a lot of unnecessary, weakness. So you stopped it, you survived for another 8 months, but I can tell you that you might have survived even a little bit more if he has not received all the chemo that completely destroys your kidneys, your liver, and all the other organs. So I'm going to start asking questions, because I know there's first you.
If there is lung cancer, he carried like 1/4 or 1/2, still like possible to relieve?
Absolutely. If the cancer, absolutely. Now here's the key. If the cancer is localized, meaning that it's...
This person, he can right here.
Yeah.
And he carried like
Yeah.
1/4.
Yeah. It's okay, because I'm thinking that, if the cancer is surgically removed,
Okay.
if it's removed, then the patient is in really good shape.
Even if he remove one hand, he still with life for that.
Yes, yes, absolutely. We thank God. God has been kind to us, gave us 2 of a lot of the stuff. Like gave us 2 kidneys.
Yeah.
You can live very easily with 1 kidney. You can live very easily. Even a little bit maybe laborious to breathe with 1 lung, but you can live. You can live with 1 lung, absolutely. And for that reason, I think, you get 2 eyes in 2 years. I mean, that's a good thing. So in terms of removing surgically that tumor, they're perfectly fine to actually live with 1 lung. Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Sorry.
What do you think of the at-home tests?
So,
Running with the box.
right. So I think that's a great question. There are new kits that are coming up that are asking you to just go to the bathroom and then basically wipe, I'm sorry for the lack of politically correct, get some poop there and then send it to the doctor so they can actually see. It is not, actually, we developed that test at NCI, by the way, just to give you a heads up. We think that it's not a bad idea for general population, but it's not a very accurate test. And here is why. If there is some detection of blood, then you can actually get it there. But I, again, strongly encourage all of you that if you have children that are 40 years age, or if you yourself are somewhere in that range, you should definitely get a colonoscopy. 40 to 45, you have to have a colonoscopy. If you haven't had it yet, you're in trouble. You got to go the next day, get the colonoscopy. Your kids, your sons, daughters, they need to have a baseline of colonoscopy. So the home kits are okay, but they're not the best approach. So I would say it's a good line of defense for the first, but I would say follow that up with media, for colonoscopy. But I can tell you this right now, you got to be very careful that on the internet there's a lot of garbage there. There's a lot of claims that, we can cure cancer, we can do this. Unfortunately, we, because we're not profitable, I'm part of the government, I'm part of the NCI National Cancer Institute, and that's what my life and my research, my passion is. It's a complete lie. There is no such a thing as a cure for cancer. Yes, there are some treatments. There is treatment for leukemia. Leukemia used to be a deadly disease, but now 90% of leukemic patients can be cured. When I say cure, they might go for 15 years, 20 years, they can be remission, and then come back and then do another dose. In breast cancer, it is detected early, and in prostate cancer, for example. Some prostate cancer are so slow that they may not kill the patient. They may die of heart disease, they might die of something else. So once again, it really depends upon who you go and what kind of cancer it is, because it makes a difference. I hate to say this, but some of my own colleagues, they want to have another bigger house or boat. They will do a surgery that costs $45,000. I mean, that's just given. So, but you need to be aware. Do your search, but don't rely on internet that are completely non-scientific. I would say your best source, your best possible source is either Mayo Clinic, Cleveland Clinic, National Cancer Institute. Now, I'm going to say a couple more things and then I'm going to take questions. I know that you are definitely, I want to come to you. So let's say, God forbid, somebody in the family has very serious case of breast or ovarian cancer. The best place to go is Sloan Kettering at New York City. Somebody has prostate cancer. The best place in the country is Johns Hopkins. Someone has brain tumor. The best place to go is Duke University. So these are the kind of things that you need to learn that will help you in terms of where do you actually get the best possible treatment. Again, God forbid if somebody gets a brain tumor, don't take him to Fairfax Hospital, don't take him to Rasmussen or Alexandria because they'll kill him. So they have no idea what they're doing. Take him to the place where they do it on a daily basis and they know what to do if something goes wrong. Yes, sorry.
I should have been right.
Oh, thank you.
Over the various things. But imagine I brought fortune in the world and if it faint apart, I may have the right things in there. Still, nothing drop out.
I'm gonna actually repeat your questions first because they're very interesting, and then I'm gonna answer it. Then I'm gonna come back to the third question. Okay? I promise. So the first question is, how many? Yeah. So come on, obviously, of course. The first question is, how many types of cancers are there? This is a very important question, actually, and here is why. Because normally when we say cancer, it's just one word, and it's sort of kind of an umbrella of putting all the disease within one cancer. The short answer to your question is there are over 200 different types of cancers. Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately, most people don't know this. And the reason is because every cancer is different. And today's diagnosis, cancers are basically, they're basically diagnosed or they're classified as 200 based on the genomic profile rather than, oh, it's breast cancer. Breast cancer on its own has like almost 5 different types. And if you don't know the types, you don't treat them right. And for that reason, I mentioned going to a right place is very critically important. Question number 2 was, oh yeah, actually that's question number 3, but I'll answer that. A very important and intuitive question is that they tell you that not to touch the cancer because it will spread. So this is a $1 million question, and here's why. Although the right answer is still being debated, and here is why. There is no way that if you touch the cancer, it will spread. I can tell you unequivocally that's not true. If you actually touch the cancer, it is not going to spread, even if it spreads the immune response, and there are other reasons that cancer will not survive. The problem is that when you remove the primary tumor, and I know this is a little complicated, but the primary tumor has 2 activities. It can actually promote the cancer, but it also, because it came from normal cells, it inhibits the tumor growth. You see what I'm saying? So it has 2 activities. It promotes it, but it inhibits it. So when you remove that tumor, now you have no inhibition anymore. So the small, tiny little pieces of cancer that lift over, they might invade. And that's why people assume that when you take the tumor, it spreads. That's not true. But it's because in some cases, the tumor itself has inhibitory effect. And when you remove the tumor, now there's no inhibitory effect, and for that reason, it starts spreading around. What was your next question? Sarcoma. Right. So cancer, there are 2 types of cancer. Well, there are 200 different kinds, but classification-wise, there are 2 major classes. One is called carcinoma. Every cancer that you probably have heard so far, 85% of all cancers are called carcinoma. And the best way to remember is that carcinoma is from the epithelial cells. Don't worry about the name, but it's from your epithelial. But sarcoma is something that is very rare. Only 1%, that's okay, only 1% of individual actually get sarcoma, and they're very serious. There's like, things like myosarcoma, they're in muscles, or there are kind of, bone cancer that are called sarcomas. So it's very rare, and some of it is found in children, but also adults can get it, but it's almost 1 to 2% of total cancer. The majority of the cancers are driven from epithelial cells, and they are known as carcinoma. Is sarcoma deadly? Some of them, most of them are not. They can be very easily treated if they're caught again early. So, yeah, sarcomas are not as dangerous. Yes?
Is that true that the processed foods like
That's a great question. Are processed food bad for you or can be there? So here's a take on it. During 1920s and 1930s, when there were no refrigeration, they used to use nitrate to actually process food. And the incidence of colon and stomach cancer was incredibly high. So when the government came and they regulate the use of nitrate, the level of stomach and colon cancer has gone down. So the short answer to your question is that in this day and age, I think a lot of the canned food that we're using supposedly, I'm quoting that, supposedly the FDA has approved it, or the actual agriculture department have approved it, so there aren't any carcinogen, but they're still considered processed. I strongly encourage using fresh or frozen. But I myself, I got kids, I can't boil, beans all the time for them, so I get, beans canned, and then chickpeas canned. Once in a while is perfectly fine. I would say staying away from processed food like on daily basis. Bacon, like having this, again, fried chicken, a lot of barbecue, a lot of grilled stuff. Stay away from those on daily basis. Fruit and vegetables. I wish I could give you guys, I don't want to bore you, but the reason why some of those things causes cancer is because they have this special chemicals. Those chemicals goes inside of the body and inside of the cell and changes the DNA. That's what I told you guys about the mutation. And when it changes the DNA, that's what actually causes eventually cancer. Now, if you eat fruit and vegetable, what happens is all the things that are coming from those bad food, it can actually take it away to some extent. There's something called antioxidants and free radicals. So vegetables and fruits have a lot of antioxidants. That's why they're good for you. Get up and walk. You don't have to do really some aggressive exercise. If you get up and really fast walk for 30 minutes, eat your vegetables and fruit, and have a fantastic steak once in a while, a good hamburger once in a while. Don't starve yourself. I don't believe in that. Don't go on these special diets. I think, overrated. Just, focus on moderation. I go back to Socrates, even moderation and moderation. That will, yes.
How about alcohol?
Great question.
Exercise, how about alcohol?
Right. So great question. Alcohol. Alcohol, and I know this is bad news for women and more of this for male, that women that actually drinks, there are higher risk of breast and ovarian cancer, unfortunately. But once again, these are individuals that drink continuously and drinks excessively. Although the new guidelines, and I know I hate because I myself once in a while like to have a glass of wine, socially with my steak. But it's been proven that if you continuously drink every night, even if it's 2 glasses of wine on a daily basis, it can increase the rate of breast cancer. Obviously, in your case, I think you can enjoy by no stretch of imagination to completely cut it off unless you have other reasons. But alcohol, there is an association between excessive amount of alcohol use and head and neck cancer, and also colon cancer, and there are other types that have not been completely associated. So the short answer is yes, there is definitely some association. But of course, there are also some studies there that a little bit of wine is good for your heart. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to make a joke, but it depends whether you want to die from heart attack or from cancer. But I have to say, enjoying a glass of wine once in a while is really not a bad idea, but just don't overdo it. Don't overdo it. Exercise. I cannot emphasize on the significance of exercise. Exercise is of critical importance. And again, you don't even have to really go and do some heavy duty. But I know this sounds bizarre, but it's been proven that if you go for a fast walk, but then also go to a gym, you don't have to get like 30 pounds or 20 pounds, just 5 pounds, something that gives you some muscle mass. The study shows that people who are over 50 and they're using a little bit of weight training, just a little bit of weight training, maybe once or twice a week, with walking every day for 30 minutes, have a much, much better lifespan than those individuals that they just basically are stationary. I can tell you unequivocally, sitting more than 4 hours watching TV is as bad as smoking cigarettes. I'm not exaggerating. It's been shown now that if you sit for 4 hours non-stop, and frankly, it causes so much. I mean, this is new study. It's a completely new study. When I read it, I was completely blown away. But I'm convinced that sitting for 4 to 5 hours non-stop and not moving. So what I usually do in my work, because I have to sit a lot of time, so I have a little timer on my watch. Every 20 minutes, I just get up, walk around, come back and sit. People think I'm nuts, but it's okay. Let it think that way. So I think it's okay to just at least once every hour, during the commercials. If you're watching TV, the best thing is to take the commercial time to go walk to your refrigerator. Don't get anything fattening or anything like potato chips or anything like that, or some sugary drink. But just walk around and just get yourself moving, so that way you're not in a completely on a sitting position. Yes. I had a question.
Yesterday,
I'm sorry. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. I think this is an incredibly important question. Sugar, sweetness. So the new study shows that from 1970s, our portion of food has increased by 500%. And I'm not exaggerating. You used to go to a coffee shop, you used to get this tiny little, pretty little English-style teacups where you could drink some coffee. Now you go to Starbucks, with all these funky names, a tall, a grande, and God knows what else. They give you this incredible, tall stuff. And I'll come back to the sugar part of it. And the reason I'm mentioning is the amount of sugar, especially the kind of sugar. The kind of sugar that has been used since 1970s is called high fructose corn syrup. And it's kind of sad because the government actually promoted that. And promoted it because they wanted to subsidize a lot of these farmers to grow corn. Because they needed corn for ethanol, for gasoline, and for other reasons. But then when we found out that ethanol is really not good in your cars, you shouldn't be using, there's a lot of it. So companies didn't know what to do with it. They found out that we can actually make synthetic sugar. And these synthetic sugars are called high fructose corn syrup. And what is really sad, that everything that you eat, unfortunately, has some of it. Even your dressing, your salad dressing, your French fries, they put sugar in it. Does anybody know why? You know why? Because they put a lot of salt to make it taste good. But because it's so salty, nobody will touch it. So they actually put high fructose corn syrup, sugar, to make it balance it out. And that's why people become addicted to it. Because high fructose corn syrup is actually addictive. And one of the most important relationships between sugar and cancer is that people who actually consume a lot of Pepsi, Coke, and soft drinks and things that have this high fructose corn syrup, they actually, even if you're not obese, they generate a lot of fibrosis within their liver or inside of the colon. And that eventually gave rise to some predisposition to cancer. So the short answer is, yes, we gotta watch our sugar. But once again, don't completely cut it because I don't believe in cutting everything at once. It's completely not necessary. Moderation. Stay away from sodas though. I think that I can tell you that sodas are not good. Yes, sir.
You know, a TV commercial that are very deceiving. They teach you how to lose weight.
Yeah.
That's one. That they teach, you know, to have certain kind of food. You know, certain kind of food. That they only do it for money.
Right. Absolutely. I agree with you.
So what are you gaining?
Right.
I mean,
Right.
you're gaining, you know, a loss.
Right. I can tell you, I actually mentioned this before, that there's a lot of garbage out there, including TV, because unfortunately we live in a very, very business-like society, business-promoting society. Everything is based on money, unfortunately.
Yeah.
You know, for that reason, for that very reason, you gotta be a very educated consumer. And what that means, that everything that you hear that is good for you, I guarantee is not. All these people that are promoting this diet are complete bogus. I actually, believe me, I don't believe in any type of diet. Okay, there are maybe some that come from Mayo Clinic, and they don't tell you. They don't tell you to buy this food from me. They don't tell you that you have to eat this food only. They tell you that everything has to be in moderation. Eat your vegetables, eat your fruits, eat once in a while, like I said, you know, some meat, make sure it's not red meat or not fried too much. Again, those are the kind of things that you want to listen in rather than, oh, you know what, you lose 50 pounds in 6 weeks. It's complete bogus, it's complete lies, I can tell you that. And what's even more important, that yes, you can starve yourself and yes, you may lose weight for that 30, 40 days, but I guarantee you that you will gain twice as much afterwards because it's not sustainable. No diet is sustainable. There's been so many studies that they show that you can lose weight, but almost 100% you gain it and you gain a little bit more. And there's some physiology behind that. I can't get into it, but so I would say stay away from dieting. Just, you know, there used to be a lot of things about don't eat any fat. A lot of people love. So they unfortunately brought in this high sugar stuff to compensate. Oh, this is low sugar, this is low fat, low fat, low fat, low fat. I'm sure everybody has read that. So what they did was they compensate that by high sugar. And I actually personally think now, I didn't know that myself either, but now I know that high fructose sugar is worse than fat food. So having a steak, having a hamburger once a while is not bad. But you know, increase your vegetable and your overall fruit intake. Yes?
What's your position on carbohydrates?
Yeah. I think carbohydrates are, again, becoming the villain, you know, in this day and age. It used to be obviously fat, but now the pendulum is shifting towards carbohydrates. Don't use carbohydrates. So my take on it is that, again, if it falls under the category of synthetic fructose, which falls under the carbohydrate, absolutely unequivocally stay away from it. No question about it. However, carbohydrate that comes from fruit, stay with it because the reason is because the carbohydrate that comes from fruit also has fiber. So when you combine the carbohydrates from fruit with the fiber, it's healthy for you. But if you do it just like, unfortunately, bread or pasta, if you do it on a daily basis, again, it's not good for you because it turns into fat. And that's why. So again, not too much, don't completely cut it off yet. Yes?
I was just wondering, when you were talking about cancer, my mother died of cancer. My father had his whole lower intestinal tract taken out and was in the hospital with chemotherapy for a whole year. But he lived for 7 years later. And we took care of him, and he died of his heart was bad.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And my husband, you talk about the Mayo Clinic, I went because I have convulsions, epilepsy,
Yeah.
and encephalitis, and They were giving me different medicines, but mother heard about the Mayo Clinic. They said, why don't you go there? And they had just come over a new medicine.
Excellent, okay, good.
And they said, could we keep her here? I lived there for 2 straight years, right in the hospital. And they tested me on this medicine. It was called PM 396. Today it's called Dialan.
That's fantastic.
But, I mean, it was just, almost like a blessing, because I had to go back to, be blood checked and make sure the medicine was
Absolutely,
working.
right.
Well, my husband had just had, his glasses changed, and they were bothering him, and we drove back to Mayo. We lived in Michigan, so he was driving me to Minnesota.
Yeah.
And he said, these glasses are wrong. I said, well, go see Dr. Dyer. He was my eye doctor. I had all kinds of that. Anyway, he went down there. The following week, they took out his speech. He said, and Dr. Dyer said, Debbie, had we not taken that, had he not come down,
Yeah.
it would have, it was from the linden jewels, and it had grown underneath his brain. And had he waited 2 more years, it had gone down his spine, they would have been able to touch him.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's again, it boils down to
And
early
so,
detection and going to
I
the right
went to
place.
the Mayo Clinic to save my husband's life. He would have died in the 70s. He died in 2015 of colon cancer.
I know.
So I understand a lot about this.
That's good.
Okay, wasn't this fantastic?
Thank you.